Welcome to Remembering Your Oneness with Xane Daniel and Monica Kupiec, where we know everything, and so do you. Hello. It takes a long time to connect to 7 streams. So I click the go button and I'm just like waiting. And there it goes. Okay, finally.
Hello,
so how are
everybody.
You? How are you today? How's everybody today? Tell us things. Tell us who you are. Tell us hello. Tell us where you are. Ask us questions.
We love questions.
Yes. It's way more fun. Yeah, so I'm back in Portland.
And,
yeah. Woo! And well, what's really cool about being in Portland again is that I'm going to be interviewing a psychologist on Friday who is open to, both the allopathic and the spiritual reasons for the diagnoses of bipolar and schizophrenia and that sort of thing, that it could be that, this could be spirit attachments. And he's a very dynamic speaker. And I think it's gonna be really fun and interesting to get like a professional's opinion, because, as everybody might not know, I'm working on a documentary that's what it's about. It's about negative entities versus diagnoses of schizophrenia and bipolar, and how I believe that we are misdiagnosing that a lot, and that actually we could solve this problem a lot easier by just working on them spiritually, their confidence, their vibration, that sort of thing, and removals to get them right back to normal, right back to a normal life where they can be productive, thriving, family supportive family members, as opposed to institutionalized or heavily medicated, which happens an awful lot. And so if you are heavily medicated and you have negative entities, the medication isn't going to help with the negative entities. It's only going to just be added on to the problem. So so I'm excited about it because I've had some really good interviews recently as well. And as we were talking about beforehand, I had one with a fellow in the Tri-Cities area of Washington, and he sees spirits like all the time, and a lot of them are negative. And it was great because when I interviewed him, we were sitting in front of a campfire, so only his face is lit up by the flames. And then I asked him at one point, "Do you see any entities right now?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, there's 2 sitting next to me, and there's one over there, and there's one over here." Like, oh wow, I got chills.
I had this one photo shoot with my friend. She wanted to burn newspaper and just do like some cool photo shoots with it. So there's this one where I'm like sitting in like the newspaper and it's only like lit up a little bit, like kind of like the V. And I sent that photo to one of my friends. He was like, "Oh, hail Satan right now."
Oh jeez. Wow.
But it's definitely, playing with fire is definitely really cool. But I feel like, wouldn't like fire like help like release the negative entities, because it's just like something is burning and it like marks as like a renewal, as a release, or not necessarily?
No, if you think about it, fire is very much a 3D thing, as opposed to a multidimensional thing or an esoteric thing. So, that's one of the things that I have to work on with people all the time, is they go, "Oh, well, I'm just going to put crystals around, and I'm going to burn sage, and I'm going to put salt in front of the doors and windows or whatever." And, the entities are like, "Yeah, okay." And they, it doesn't really matter. But the thing is that if you believe it'll work, then it works sometimes, because, what really is happening is that you're powerful. And if you believe that thing, then you are actually putting your power into the prevention of the entity coming through the space or coming through. But I think it's hilarious to put salt in front of windows and doors, because they can't go through walls, right? They're like, "Oh, I gotta, where's the door to this place?" Like that doesn't make any sense. So and I did get to interview somebody who did talk about that, which was kind of cool to have that on video. And then I'm planning to ask some people that I'm going to be interviewing soon who have had negative entities or are still dealing with them and say, hey, did you try salt and crystals and sage and see what they have to say about it? And then we'll be able to compare and contrast their different experiences. So
yeah, I think it's like interesting that, or it'll be fun to, not fun, but it'll be fascinating to hear everybody's different experiences and see how, if there is a common thing that people think initially of what to do, how to remove it, or even the first instinct of how to detect that they've had one or realize that they had one, or at what point in their life did they realize that they had it and wanted to actually overcome it. And I feel like every time you have an interview, you're gonna be like, oh, I have a new question to ask. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what's fun. Yeah, yeah. So I have one coming up on Friday and then on Sunday, and the one on Sunday is somebody who's been suffering with them, so that'll be good. And then I'll head to San Francisco, and I'll have 2 or 3 more when I'm down there, and then hopefully going to Sacramento as soon as I hear from this guy who's a guy who actually removes them also, so sort of like me, but he's more of the shaman type, so he does the removal and then goes, okay, see ya, and we'll see, and I want to see what his process is for those people that get him back, because that's what the problem is most of the time, is that sure, they get rid of them temporarily, but what if they come back? Do they now have to go back to him and pay him again, or is there another solution that I haven't heard yet? So
then to clarify to the audience, with what you do, you more so you work with them after even the removal because of the 7-week course, correct? Or is it kind of like it builds up to it?
Well, we're doing removals and we're working with them. So I can do removals to help them, to help keep it away. And then during that process, now they're raising their vibration, they're stepping into their power, and they're learning how to prevent them from ever coming back. So so Carla just asks, do you need a clearing after you do the clearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of, because what happens is we're come back.
We're not laughing. We're just laughing because we know we need clearings.
Yeah.
I've had multiple clearings after a clearing.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'm actually laughing because if we do it right, you should never need another one, right? Like because what I'm teaching people how to do is not how to clear themselves, but how to be extremely powerful and how to make it so that those entities or those things never come back. Yeah. So my goal is that you are just a sovereign being now who can float through this existence. And the last thing you ever have to worry about is negative entity attachments. Like, because if you worry about them, then you're more likely to attract them to you anyway. So it is all about having you step into your power.
And then stepping into power has other, blockages or restrictions too. So that's where you can add more clearings to it. Because I never had a negative entity, but I've needed multiple clearings because of things that were affecting me, either like unworthiness or lack of unconditional love, and like some other stuff. Did you catch that segue?
Yeah, I did. Yes. Yes. Our topic today is unconditional love, but I do want to pile on to that because each time you do have a blockage or you do have a doubt or you've decided that something is true when it's not necessarily true. Those are the types of things that we also clear during the program because they get in the way of making it so that you can step into your power. And once we get rid of those things, and now you can step into your power and you can be this awesome being that you came here to be. But and one of the most important ways to do that is to love yourself unconditionally. And it's not very easy to do, and it's a great topic. I could talk about it easily for the next hour, so I'll have to pause and take a breath and allow you to jump in, Monica. But like one of the reasons, let's talk about why is it so difficult to love yourself unconditionally?
Because there's other forces in society that tells you not to, in a way, because they make you overstrain yourself by overworking, or you get into school and you have debt and then you just feel very like, oh, like how do I love myself now if I have all of this negative stuff piled up on me? So it's almost like it's easy to put yourself second and people forget to put themselves first. I've definitely struggled with that where, you know, I would put other people first and forget about, you know, my own needs. Like, oh, I don't feel good right now, but I'm still going to give attention to someone else. I think that's the number one thing that happened in my life, that before I realized that I should give myself more unconditional love. It was definitely saying yes to things when I wanted to say no. And once I reversed that, and once I started to appreciate who I am and embody my power, that's when I realized how powerful unconditional love is, and being able to use that when I give energy healings or clearings to other people. Love is actually the number one phrase or like chant that I say to people when I give them some Reiki. Like this morning I gave my friends a little bit of Reiki, of like just to like show her what I do. And I told her, well, what did you feel? I was like, I didn't feel much, but I just put love in you. Like I just said love a whole bunch of times. And that's how you get your clearing, is because you raise yourself to that love frequency. And once you're in that love frequency, it's so hard to not want to not be in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when it comes to unconditionally loving yourself, one of the challenges to unconditionally loving yourself is that you know everything about yourself. And that means, you know, those times when you've been like, oh, I was lazy. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I did something where I insulted someone else. You remember all of your mistakes. And those mistakes you remember them way better than you remember all the positive things that you did, because you need to learn the lesson from mistakes. Again, we go back to survival, because if you make a mistake that could mean the death of you or your tribe, then you've got to remember that so you don't make that, take that action again. So of course, when you think about yourself, you go, yeah, I screwed up that relationship, and I screwed up that job, and I screwed up that school thing, and I screwed up. You remember mostly all the times that you messed up. And so then you go into judgment, and it's so easy to go into judgment of yourself for all of that, because you're trying not to make those same decisions or actions in the future. So, of all the people that you could ever meet, obviously every mistake you've ever made. And how many mistakes that do you know of other people's? Very few. A couple, unless they were your romantic partners or your mom or your sibling. You really don't know that much about other people's mistakes. So you're going to look at them as higher than you. You're going to go, well, that person's pretty amazing. They don't do anything wrong. Like, wow, I wish I could be like that. And so you're going to put yourself down lower. So it might be easy in your mind to unconditionally love someone else, but loving yourself is nearly impossible because of the way that your memory of your own self truly is. So how do we overcome that?
Yeah. How do you overcome that? That is exactly it.
Okay, before we go and answer that question, let's throw Maria's cool comment on here. Today I was asking the various insects to only bite me if they could give me something in return, as precious as a meal I'm giving to them. So she must be talking about vampire bugs, mosquitoes, and most of them then changed their minds and flew away. I love this, and I've actually had interactions with insects in a similar way, Maria. It's pretty cool. There's a collective called the mantis, and the mantis it's the collective of all the insects on this planet. And you can interact with the collective of the mantis by simply asking them, hey, you know what? Could we, other insects. Okay. So not vampire bugs. Could we not bite us here for the next 15 minutes because we're doing something important? And to my shock and surprise, the mosquitoes left me alone. And this other person that I was working with, it was like next to a river in Tennessee, mosquitoes, like crazy. And I was doing an activation, and I said, hey, could you leave us alone for about 15 minutes? As soon as the activation was done, they came right back. They started biting us.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, I get, like, the similar thing, like, sometimes, like, a lot of my friends, when I'm hiking or something, they'll be like, "Oh, there's so many mosquitoes around," and I'm like, "I'm not getting bit." Like,
Oh, really? Oh,
it's
man.
like, they don't either they don't like me or they just know that I don't care that they're gonna be biting me, so then they don't bite me, but I
Oh,
just
yeah.
don't get bit that much, or, like, sometimes when I'm sitting on my porch, I'll start getting bit, but I kinda will kinda say the same thing, like,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Yeah. I don't
why are
need this.
you" I don't yeah. "Why are
Yeah,
you
no,
here?"
I'm a massive magnet. Like
Mhm,
if there's 5 people, I'm being bitten 2 or 3 times more than anybody else.
mm,
So, yeah, so they definitely like me. But anyway, but what I liked about what Maria was saying though, not just the mantis and all that, was that she's doing an energy exchange with them. She's doing
mm,
a love exchange with them, and she recently told me a story about how, because I think it was mosquitoes in this story. See if I can remember this. Um, Something about that she was almost feeding them. She decided to give them love and allow them to take some of her
mm,
blood. So yeah, so it's pretty cool and interesting how you can just play with everything, and that's what I tell people to do a lot is
yeah,
experiment. Like, be okay with having discomfort, because the
mhm,
experimentation and the learning that you can have from it is so much bigger than the temporary discomfort. Like,
yeah.
try different things.
It was interesting. Well, just to play around with it, like, yesterday, I went to the Apple store with my friend because, like, his phone charger wasn't working, and, like, with Apple now, you need to have an appointment to get in, and so, like, he said,
uh,
like, "Oh, I've been to Apple before, and they, like, took me in." And I was like, sure." But, like, so we went up to this girl, and then she was kinda, like, giving off, like, a weird energy, like, I could feel, like, she was getting, like, irritated because he asked her once, like, "Oh, do you have an appointment?" He said, "No." And then he, like, explained what was going on with his phone, and she's like, "Well, you're gonna need an appointment." And then he, like, asked again, like, "Oh, well, like, I've had people squeeze me in." And then he asked, like, a third time, and that's when I really felt her energy. It was like she was not having it. And I could kind of feel his energy too, that it wasn't, like, very loving. It got kind of aggressive, like, the third time just because
mm,
he was annoyed that his phone wasn't working.
mm,
And at the end of it, like, he went to go, like, check out, and I was like, "I'm gonna go," because it's, like, a really weird, like, hostile, like, environment in this Apple store, and I go to the Apple store a lot, so I don't wanna, like, be, like, remembered, like, by my friend. And then afterwards, like, we were just, like, joking around that, like, "Oh, like, if I was the one asking her, to, like, get an appointment, I bet I probably would've gotten it because I would've said it, like, extra calm, like, extra lovingly, and, like, just,
mm,
like, went about the whole thing." And I feel like if you do go about, like, in a loving energy or in a love more of a love vibration, someone's gonna feel your generosity, and then they'll try to make it work for you. But if
yeah.
2 people are feeding off of, like, a very, like, hostile, like, energy, then it's clearly not gonna work, and it's just gonna be very uncomfortable for the people around.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because some people who use that tactic, that impatient, angry tactic, say,
Mhm.
"Well, yeah, they just want me out of their face, so they just do it so that I leave them alone.
Yeah.
So they do what I ask." So
Mhm.
it can, and I think that can happen as well. So, but most certainly, I prefer the loving way because it disarms someone. Then they're like, "Oh, let me go the extra mile for you.
Mhm.
Let me make this happen for
Mhm.
you."
'Cause I feel it's definitely more rare for people to act in the more loving way than
Yeah.
the
Oh
aggressive
yeah.
one, and especially people, because I worked in customer care, so it's like I was feeling her. I was like, "Oh, shit, I remember when people talked to me like this," and it's like there's nothing that you could do because there really is no time slots, or in my opinion, was when I was selling tours, it's like when something was sold out, like, I can't just open a seat for you because there's literally no seats. So
Yeah.
it was, like, interesting to see that from, like, a third like, like, a different perspective of, like, I remember this scene. I remember how uncomfortable
Oh,
I
sure.
felt like her.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it's like I kinda just felt really bad for her because I know how shitty it feels to be treated that way.
Right. Yeah, so now Maria is commenting now. This was the story I was trying to tell very poorly about what she experienced and connecting them with them and had a beautiful moment while they were eating her blood. And that's just really beautiful in this really weird way. Like most people would be like, gross, I would never do that. Well, she's saying like that this is nature, and nature is something to love. And you can we say that she loved herself unconditionally to be able to do something like that? I think that she loved the world unconditionally to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the question that I asked was, so how the heck do you get over the idea that get over all those mistakes, quote unquote, that you've had or made? And how is it that you can say, wow, I really can love myself unconditionally despite all of that? And then we have to go kind of back to creation and the whole concept of the universe has created all of this. We have created all of this as source is exactly as it is. And to say that you are not worth loving unconditionally in a weird way is saying that you got it wrong, universe. You screwed up. You made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake on anybody else or anything else, but you made a mistake on me. And that's kind of weird. Like, well, why would that be? So our source selves are just like, we're just whipping up the universe and we're making trees and we're making plants and we're making people and we're making animals and we're making cats and we're, making all this stuff. And then we come to you and we go, oh, whoops, I accidentally got too much stuff in the sauce. And then we had an accident. We had a mistake. Doesn't make any sense, right? Everything, all of us were created exactly as we are, and we chose these beings, these lives, with all of the opinions that we have and everything based on whatever that divine perfect plan was. So that's the foundation that you can build from. You could say, okay, yep, I've got all these things that I've done. I'm unhappy. I've got negative entities. I have sadness. I have abuse. I have, all these things. But having some faith that for some reason, this is all supposed to be, at least now we can build from here. So that's where I start. Do you have any other thoughts before I continue on the next?
I mean, it honestly just bottles down to acceptance. And just being like, it just takes a while, but once you reach that moment of like, oh, like I can really love myself, it's almost like that all of that time in the past has disappeared and you're just now really just back to your normal self. So it's almost like it kind of, for me at least, I think it just makes that like that illusion of time like make more sense, because I'm always this love. I'm always this unconditional love. And all of that just kind of just felt like a dream. But now I'm actually living in my dream more consciously, and I can offer love and respect my body even more now. It's almost like a rebirth, I think. Like you've actually like, you're like that phoenix. You've burned to your ashes and now you're embodying your love state. So that's my thing on it. I don't know where you could start. It's just more of like experiences after experiences, and just starting just to be aware of your surroundings and just tuning into how you feel internally when you're around in certain situations. So it's like if someone is irritating you, or that scene in the apple, like if my friend was aware of like, oh wait, I can hear myself bickering at her, maybe I should tone it down. I think that's a form of unconditional love, because even though you are bickering at someone or like being irritating that like that person, once you start becoming aware of it, it starts to dissolve it into that you're offering forgiveness to that person. And forgiveness is actually one of my hugest, I guess, things I not necessarily preach about, but that's my ultimate lesson that I like to teach people, because I started forgiveness at a very very young age when I started the whole A Course in Miracles thing when I was like 17. So it's like that has always just embodied me, and unconditional love. I don't know when it actually fully started with me, but that's when I started to understand it, was when I was reading the concepts of that Course in Miracles book.
Makes sense. Yeah. And, Carla wrote this as you were saying forgiveness, like you guys you're synchronized there very well. So yeah, it's very beautiful and true. And in, in a weird way too, there's nothing to forgive because you are, and everyone is, acting perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I
So
think forgiveness is more of an acceptance. It's
yeah.
not necessarily like, oh, I forgive you for your sins. It's more like I accept what you did and I accept how I feel, but let's move forward on this and
Yep.
offer each other love.
Right.
That's how I view for forgiveness as, because you could do a easy like egotistic forgiveness, but you're not really truly going to embody that acceptance. So it's not
Hmm.
until you embody that acceptance is someone truly forgiven.
I love that egotistic forgiveness. That's a really good little phrase, because really, I think that some people do have an egotistical forgiveness, and they say, somebody wrongs them, and then they volunteer to say, well, I forgive you for wronging me. And the
Mhm.
other person's like, what? I didn't even know that I did that. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So, okay. So moving to different ways to handle this. And one of them is to talk about perfection. So we have been raised in this society and by our parents and our teachers and our bosses that perfection is something that you need to strive for. And
Mhm.
then, boy, talk about judgment, right? Perfection is really a bad word for a lot of people who have suffered, because
Mhm.
for most cases they have suffered because they give themselves this need to be perfect. And of course, when you judge yourself against perfection, then you're always going to fail. You're always going to be less than perfection.
Mhm.
However, I also have to say that your idea of perfection is completely skewed. That to decide, oh, I could have been this and I could have been that, that would have been more perfect. Who are you to say what perfect is? You have no
Mhm.
idea what perfect is. Nobody has any idea what perfect is. Okay, so you do something horrible to somebody. You insult them. You by accident. You didn't even mean to. You just said something that you were excited to say, and all of a sudden somebody else gets hurt. Well, why is that a mistake? Because why is that not perfect? What if that person who you accidentally insulted
Mhm.
just learned something huge, and it opened up their expansion in a way that they wouldn't have gotten if you hadn't accidentally said that thing. So
Yeah.
now you're judging yourself for having made someone better. So, and you can't possibly know what actually is happening inside someone. That mistake that you made, that it actually turned out to be the biggest, most important thing that ever happened in their life, and that could happen on every mistake. And in a way, it does, because there are no such thing as mistakes. You are
Mhm.
constantly helping the universe with every decision that you make. You're helping all the people around you. You're helping yourself. Every decision that you make is a divine decision. It is valid. It is perfect. Okay, so wow, what a strange concept. If you go into not worrying about being perfect, then you are being perfect. If you go into worrying about being perfect, or worrying or not worrying about being perfect, you're still perfect. It's impossible to not be perfect. You are always perfect, because everything that you ever do is divine. So
Mhm.
now what are we saying then? So the definition of perfect is wrong. It's not perfect. And the definition of perfect says that it's without flaws.
Mhm.
Well, everything that you do is without flaws, even though it feels like there are flaws. Or you could say it another way: all the flaws are perfect flaws. Everything, this aspect of myself. I get angry when somebody talks about my weight. Okay, so is that a flaw of mine, or is it
Mhm.
a signal that I need to make some sort of change about myself? Is it a signal that I could expand more, I could become better? Is it whatever? Like every characteristic that you have is perfect, and there are no flaws in all of your characteristics. So when you look at yourself in that way, then it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier to go, well, of course I love myself unconditionally,
Mhm.
because I'm doing everything divinely perfect in everything that I do. Like
Yeah.
like Starlight Divine just said, we are all perfect divine beings. so that judgment can start to unflow. You can take the spigot of judgment that's pouring all over you, and you can start to crank the dial so that now it's a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less until you turn it all the way off, because you do not have anything to judge yourself by.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think the more I embodied the unconditional love, the less I started to judge myself and to judge others. I think a lot of my friends always say like, "Oh, I like being around you because I feel like there's no judgment." And I'm like, "Yeah, because there's really nothing to judge about. Like, you are you, and that's all." And I feel like if more people acted the way, not necessarily the way I act, but like if they embodied that like judgment, that non-judgment mentality, it would be a lot different. I feel like more people would be able to be more open or be more authentic with themselves. Because I think a lot most of society is just constantly judging you like, oh, like you don't have the X amount of money, or like you don't have a house already, or you're not married yet, you don't have kids yet. It's like there's all of these factors that just like are so, I don't know the word to say it, but I hated that mentality, and that's why I moved to Hawaii, and that's why I stepped away from it, because it was just so sickening. It's like, why are you telling me what to do when it doesn't make me feel good? Like, why do I need to get a degree when I know it's not going to help me currently in my life? Or why do I need to do all of these certain things when I feel not myself in it? And once you step away from that mentality of all of those judgments, yes, it's completely hard. It's very hard and emotional, but then you're able to embody like, you know, more of yourself and more of that unconditional love for yourself. It's easier to attain it once you let go of all of those judgments that are constantly getting piled up on you. And it might mean that you may have to leave a relationship, or you may have to leave your family, or something like that, but deep down you know it's for the best. Because I left Hawaii, or I left Chicago, and I left all of my best friends, I left all of my family, but it was just something deep down within me that was just pulling me to Hawaii, pulling me to discover more about myself. And I don't think I would have developed the gifts that I have now if I hadn't had done this huge, like, you know, drastic like move.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. And Shamil, okay, so I feel that I don't want to be perfect, but I strive to do better and also judge myself daily as I lay in bed and the whole day's happenings. I feel I could have done things differently or better, right? So, you know, you're doing that. First of all, it comes naturally. That's a normal experience. You are, you know, reviewing your day. I'm actually hearing a little bit of echo of myself. Monica, you might want to turn your speakers down a tiny little bit for me. So yeah, it was weird, out of the blue. We've never had that problem before. Yeah, I'm still hearing it a little. So when it comes to this sort of situation, like, yeah, you come about it very naturally because you are a survival being. You're in survival programming. You are trying to not make mistakes so that you do not die, or so that you do not kill your tribe members. So it's very natural for you to be doing this. So first, you should stop judging yourself for judging yourself, because it is very natural. You should accept that this is what's happening. Something else that I've noticed is that people who judge themselves also judge others. So I'm betting, Shamil, that without even really thinking about it, you are judging others in the same way that you judge yourself. So that is also natural, because you are back to the tribe situation. Mm-hmm. You're judging your tribe members to make sure they don't kill the children, or whatever the situation is. So relax, and then go back to that divine perspective that all the beings that are here as you created them as source, and they are here to experiment and explore and have all the experiences just like you. And all of the experiences are valid, and all the experiences are beautiful, even if they are painful, because pain is only from the perspective of the individual. It is not a universal pain. It is an individual pain. Mm. So, this is a general kind of topic, and that's what this whole episode is all about. So we'll just continue to talk about it. But thank you for your thoughts. and give
Yeah,
us
I
more.
mean, even for like if you feel that you could have done things differently or better, it's just more of it's still that concept of acceptance. You want to accept what you did and know that, either tomorrow you can improve, at least 1 or 2% better. But it's just more of understanding that you did exactly what you needed to do today and it's exactly what you needed to grow from or to experience. Because I think could is that key word for ego. So it's your ego that's coming in and telling you that you're not good enough, that you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So it's just more of embodying now, like, or accept, or just realizing that you are that unconditional love and that today you did exactly what you needed to do today. I mean, I still get that too with myself. It's like, oh, I should have done this or should have done that. But I already am aware that that's just my ego talking to me. And I already know I did exactly what I needed to do because maybe my body was more tired, so I took a nap, or I had to eat a certain different food just to re-energize myself. And it's not something that I regret anymore or hold grudges on myself if I did something out of the whack or that didn't make me feel good. It's just more of in this moment, I needed it, and I'm just gonna, accept and grow from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally right on. And I like this little comment from Starlight. You're just in a human vessel suit. We are just experiencing the lower density in these suits. So stop judging the divine suit. You by having a judgment of yourself or these divine suits, you think you know better. And in that way, that judgment is kind of weird. Like, oh, I think that I could do this better or that this other person could do this better. Well, who's that? Who's making that judgment now? Is
Mhm.
that a divine does that come from a divine place? In a way it does, but in a way it doesn't. It's actually coming from a 3D place. It's coming from the 3D mind. But if you were to ask your higher self, hey, did I screw that up? Every single time your higher self will say no. You did everything exactly as you were supposed to. The only being that's judging you right now is you. There is
Mhm.
no higher vibrational being that is currently judging you, nor will they ever. Everything that you do, going back to this, is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. Awareness is so much of all this, right? So, we're talking about things, concepts that both Monica and I have practiced. We've applied these concepts to the way that we look at our lives, and we have to do that over and over again, because there are times when, I'm sure that you will agree, Monica, that we forget about this stuff and we just go into judgment anyway, or we go into
Mhm.
self-blame or whatever anyway. And what gets us out of it is that moment of going, oh no, I'm doing the thing again.
Yeah,
Right.
that's exactly it. And I remember when I was still living back at home and I started just becoming more self-aware during conversations. I remember having a conversation with my mom, and she was like, I think she was going off on me about something. And then I remember just standing there and just like offering forgiveness and like not letting it affect me. And I remember I like wrote in my journal eventually, like years ago, I like read it again. And I was just, my excitement of like writing, of like, I became aware and I felt like I didn't judge back or I didn't react back. And this is such a cool feeling. And once you just become aware of like how good it feels to not react to something, it's like, I want to practice this again. I want to keep going and seeing how else I can like be so in control of my words and the way I think and the way I do.
Yeah,
For
that's
me, that
beautiful.
was the exciting part about starting my spiritual journey, is like I just got so curious about my mind of how it is, that I just made my everyday life be my lessons or be my like scientific experiment. So
Amazing.
it was just, I just love all of this stuff. And now, like, yeah, I still judge or I still do something, but that moment of self-awareness is just like, oh, okay, it's just that thing again. I just
Yeah.
need to practice it a little bit more. But sometimes it's like I'll judge, but maybe I feel jealous or maybe I feel something else, and then I'm working with that emotion. So it's like, okay, well, why am I jealous? Like, is there a lack right in me right now that's making me feel that? Is there something in me that I don't have? Like yesterday, I went to go test drive a Tesla with my friend, and I'm just like, I want a Tesla now. But it's like, I don't really need one, but it's just like, it's like that fun. It was like more humorous. It's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
just a car, but it is like a really sexy car. Like,
Right.
but it
Right.
made me, it like motivated me, like, oh, maybe I just need to sell a couple more paintings and I can buy myself a Tesla. But it's just like fun. It's like a fun game that you're doing with your mind. And it's like, it's not like you're not like I was in that lack moment of like, oh my God, I can't afford a Tesla right now, or I can't
Right.
like, can't manifest it right now. But it's just more of like, okay, if I like it, that means I'm probably going to get it eventually. And it's just like really realizing that you're just this powerful being, that you can really get what it is that you want, as long as you can offer that non-judgment self towards yourself. Like, instead of being in that denial of like, oh, I'm never going to get one, it's more like, no, like, actually I can get it, and I'm going to work my way towards it, and I'm going to keep growing as a being, and it's going to open doors to something else, or it's going to open doors to a different car if I need a different car. But the Tesla is pretty cool. So
Before we go into that, so it's that self-awareness that's really amazing, because when you see yourself, you go, oh, I'm getting angry again. Oh, I'm getting upset. I'm getting hurt. Oh, look at me. Oh, look at the poor little me. Oh, he's so hurt, and when you can really see that about yourself and go, why do I need to be that way? Right?
Mhm.
Like, that's just my practiced reaction. That is my default reaction. What if I could change that? What if I could decide right now not to be hurt? What if I could say, oh, well, you know what? That person probably said that because they're suffering in this way, or they're miserable about this other thing. They don't really care about hurting me or not hurting me. They're trying to not hurt right now. So why should I, get into this situation where I also contribute to that lower vibrational experience? That's just me having a practiced and routine reaction. Let's go
Mhm.
ahead and try a different one. Let's see if I can not be hurt by that. Let's see if I can not
Mhm.
be angry about that. And as soon as you say, let's try, or let's experiment, let's play,
Yeah.
then it changes. You're
Mhm.
just not that angry. You're just not that hurt anymore.
Yeah, it's really that perception of detaching yourself from these situations, and realizing that you're so much more than this like 3D like
Response machine.
responsive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're responding in this like odd way, and once you realize that you can respond in a different way, in a non-robotic way, that's when you can embody that power from within, and then learn that unconditional love is truly within you. It's just that it's just uncovering all of these layers that you need to first get to. 'Cause you can't get to a center of anything without going into all of those obstacles along the way.
Yep. All we really want, all we do all the time, is we pursue pleasure and we avoid pain. That is pretty much the breakdown of the human experience. And really, if you think about it, all of the animals definitely embody that. The squirrel doesn't go, let's decide today on some metaphysical topics. It just goes, oh, I have this discomfort in my stomach and I want to resolve that. Okay, let's see, where am I going? Oh, that nut, boy, that sounds good. So in that case, I am avoiding pain of stomach and I am pursuing pleasure of mouth, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go do that, and guess what? I get to survive just by following that little basic programming. That's why we
Mhm.
have it. We don't have to ever think about whether we're going to survive or not. All we have to do is follow that automatic programming that guides us through our lives. Okay, I'm going to eat food. I'm going to pursue sexual relationships. I'm going to try to feel good about this thing over here because I don't like feeling bad about that. When you're
Mhm.
in that very selective and very basic thought process, then it's very difficult to look at yourself from a third person perspective and go, oh, look, he's just responding. He's just pursuing pleasure. He's just avoiding pain. That's all he's doing. But that awareness can actually help you go, oh, do I want to just keep pursuing pleasure? Do I really want to go get the ice cream from the fridge? Maybe I don't really need that right now. Maybe I could take a walk instead. Oh, okay. So and here's where it gets really interesting, because then you say, I don't really feel like taking a walk, but I know that after I've taken the walk, I'm probably going to feel kind of good. I might have a little bit of a buzz. I'll feel a little bit more tired when it comes to going to bed tonight. So I have the ability to pursue pleasure with the realization that the short term is going to be a pain experience. Maybe, oh, I don't really want to get up. So that's the beauty of these very complex brains, is that we can now start to say, okay, I'm not just going to, pursue pleasure and avoid pain without any thought. I'm actually going to make decisions, and I can even say, I'm going to do this thing that I don't really want to do, because I know that it will grow me and it expand me and all kinds of wonderful benefits. So let's do it. Let's do the painful thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but maybe because of all of my injuries that I've had, that I actually learned so much through my pain, and I'm very open to pain. If I feel it, I actually want to feel it even more and embody it fully until I've learned from it. Especially with my fear of heights, like I am like so intrigued by all the hikes here in Hawaii because they're so like up high, like there's a lot of scary cliffs, but I still go into them because I just want to know, why am I so scared of heights? And through the 7 years that I've been here, it's definitely like decreased, but it's still like present within me, that fear of heights. But it's definitely like not as bad as how it used to be, but it's because of that curiosity, or that like that determination in a way to like figure it out. It's what's helping to dissolve it, because when I'm there, I'm realizing, okay, my body's actually okay, but the fear is actually just in my head. And then once I tune into like God or like love or everything, like that fear dissolves of heights. And the moment I snap out of that frequency, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm really high up. That fear just comes up. So it's just being hyper aware can actually help you overcome those things that you fear. Once you lose sight of yourself as being unconditional love, that's when you just lower yourself back down to all of that fear-based mindset or fear frequency, or that 3D mindset per se, is that playing that victim role of like, oh, well, I'm just scared of heights because I'm just scared of heights, instead of actually like digging down, like, no, I'm actually love, and my mind is just telling me that I'm scared of heights. There's this like disconnect. And once you connect to it, you're able to then truly, truly see your true self.
Yeah. So one of the things that I talked about today in the video is using worship a little bit. And worship is a weird word because we often have applied it to just worshiping the divine or worshiping the God that we were taught to worship, right? So the idea of, okay, how could I worship to create unconditional love, especially to create unconditional love for self? So to worship ourselves sounds narcissistic. And so it's going to be at first probably not really liked. They're like, oh, no, you can't worship yourself. That's crazy. What's wrong with you? I don't want to be a narcissist. But for some of those who are really suffering from a lack of self-love, I feel like another way to do this is to actually turn and worship yourself. So how could you worship yourself if you see yourself as these flawed beings? Okay, well, let's imagine a being that maybe it's a romantic partner, maybe it's the greatest friend that you've ever had, whatever. And let's imagine the perfect friend or the perfect romantic partner. Everything that they do is perfect for you. They anticipate your wants and needs. They say the right things at the right times. And you just feel this incredible connection with this person. you might get to the point where you kind of worship them in a way. You might be like, wow, this is an amazing being. I can't even believe that this being is a 3D being. It doesn't even seem possible.
Yeah.
If you can imagine that, then let's take that version, that 3D being that you sort of worship, and let's go ahead and say, well, I am perfect for myself. I have all those. I anticipate all of my needs. I do everything exactly for me in the right ways. So, there's really not that much of a difference between worshiping someone else and worshiping yourself, at least in that same sort of, if there could be a 3D being that you would just be like, wow, I worship this being, then that means that it's possible for you to be that. And you are that. You are automatically that. So just another kind of angle to kind of shake up some thoughts to go, okay, I am worth worshiping. Who else is worth worshiping? I am. I am worth worshiping. You are worth worshiping by yourself, Monica. Like, why? Who else would be?
Yeah, like, worshiping is a good word, but again, it's all acceptance. Like, it's really bottles down to acceptance. And once you can accept yourself, you're able to worship yourself, and you're able to step into that power that you truly are, because you're going to stop hiding the things that you feel, and you're going to truly be like, okay, this is my gift. This is my superpower. I accept this, and let me use this to help other people. And I think once you start to embody your power, you're more likely to want to help other people, because you want to help them overcome what you just overcome. Just like how I had my crazy injuries, it's like I want to help other people that are struggling with pain, because I've been there and I know how miserable it is. And I definitely had the same thing where I would escape to pleasure. I had such a bad sex addiction. It was because I was going through so much pain, and this was the only place that I could actually feel freedom. And once I realized, like, okay, I don't want this anymore, like, I could do this a different way, that's when I started to feel more self-acceptance within myself, that I am so worthy. I don't need to go and see this asshole anymore. I don't need to go and do that anymore, because I'm able to go and do this in a different outlet, which is through hiking or surfing or meditating or something like that. But it's like, once you are able to see your power or to feel your power, all of those other things just kind of just come along, and that unconditional love is just going to be so strong that you just don't want to get away from it, and you're just going to truly believe it and empower it, because you're going to actually miss that unconditional love frequency. You're going to miss it, and you're going to want to go find it again in a different outlet. And I found it now through painting. Like, I had surfing, can't surf now because I'm still scared, still have PTSD from my injuries, but it's like painting, that same unconditional love I had for surfing embodied into my painting. And it's like, I think that's what's my motive in life, is that feeling of unconditional love. And if I can feel it outside of a sexual relationship, I think I've, like, not necessarily mastered myself, but I feel like I've definitely embodied a new version of myself. And that's how I want others to experience too, is that through your escape, you're going to learn that you don't want to be there, and you're going to find another outlet to then embody that unconditional love.
Yeah, that's great too. And I like the perspective there of, okay, so I now have PTSD related to surfing, or somebody else who received some sort of injury doing a sport, or it's completely unrelated. Now they've injured their fingers, so they can't type anymore, whatever it is. And to look at that and say, oh, okay, well, that was supposed to happen. You could say, oh my gosh, why did I get myself into that situation where I had my head bashed against a rock, so now I can't surf anymore? Man, I wish I hadn't done that, and just be stuck in that moment. And there you're blaming yourself. You're not loving yourself unconditionally. You're seeing it as a mistake. You could be totally wrapped up in all that. But instead, what you're saying is that you're saying, well, that was exactly supposed to happen. And now it's led me to painting. And painting is my new passion. It is amazing. It is beautiful. And it's creating something. Surfing is just a feeling, just an experience at the moment. Now I'm actually creating something that has value, or it lasts, or it has a new type of fulfillment that I wouldn't have felt if I hadn't bashed my head against a rock while I was surfing, right? So that's
Well, it
such a
wasn't a rock; it was the fin. So
oh, that's right. So yeah. Well, I
wasn't
like
that
the
dramatic.
rock just sounds worse. Yeah, right. I just really want to make it sound bad. No. So yeah. So that's really a beautiful way to look at it, and it's a perfect microcosm of what we've been talking about today, that you have never made a mistake in your entire life. Everything that you've always ever done has been perfect, and it's gotten you to exactly where you are right now. So you can congratulate yourself for having done it. So I said in the description that I was going to do a little affirmation / activation, and we've only got about 5 minutes left. So I want to fulfill what I wrote in the description and give everybody an unconditional love affirmation / activation. So if you can all right, good. So if everybody can go ahead and close their eyes and take a nice big deep breath and relax as you exhale. Feel yourself sinking into your chair, into your bed, wherever you are. Feel gravity really pulling you down. And what you're going to do here is you're just going to repeat the statement, I love myself unconditionally. And you're just going to silently repeat that in your head. So this is your affirmation. And as you continue to repeat that, I'm going to do an activation that sets this truth to be true in your right brain as well as your left brain. The right brain is the emotional side, the left brain, the logical side, and the right brain is more like your subconscious. So keep repeating that. And if you have any visuals, you can guide your visuals to you hugging yourself or you putting yourself up on a pedestal and with light glowing all around you, lifting up off the ground in your amazing beauty and really worshiping that version of yourself. Worshiping and loving your multidimensional self. Looking at yourself from your higher self, who is always going to love you unconditionally. Just keep repeating it. The way my activations work is I'm going to say breath in, and when I do, you're going to take a nice big deep breath. You're going to hold it at the top, and you're going to wait for me to say the explosive word, awaken, and then you can exhale. So keep repeating, I love myself unconditionally, all the way through the activation. Breath in. Oh! Good. Okay. When you're ready, when you love yourself, when you know that you are perfect, when you know that you are perfect with perfect flaws, then you can open your eyes.
That was nice.
Thanks. It felt good too. I felt like I could feel the energy from the folks who were participating.
Yeah, I just did because I have my the weekly meditations that I do on my little Facebook group. I was doing, I think it was yesterday, I was doing the heart chakra. I was really opening up that heart chakra for people.
Nice.
So
yeah, it's a good one. So how can people go to do your meditations?
The Facebook group is called Island Awakening Ohana. So that one I go live twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then all the playbacks are there. So if the time zones doesn't work out for you, you can listen to them. I don't think there's a direct URL. I think it's just like numbers and stuff. But
yeah,
search it, Island Awakening Ohana. Ohana is OHANA, which means family in Hawaiian. So
cool. Yeah, I just sent it out to everybody so they could at least just copy it and paste it into
and
the
I
search.
have meditations and yin yoga on my YouTube, which is Island Awakening.
Cool.
So those ones you can, experience too.
Something fun that's happening for Awoken TV is that we are actually changing the name. We are changing the name of it. Yeah, we're changing the name of it to Cosmic TV. And I like it a lot better. I think it's a really good name. And one of the problems I think with Awoken is that the QAnon people have stolen the word woke. And so we were getting problems where some people that were kind of more in the mainstream were like, you can't name it that. Like that's, you know, that's a big problem. So we're like, okay. And
switching it over.
What's that? Yeah.
We're switching it over.
Yeah, so I really like it, and I'm excited to be able to say now that I'm the content director for Cosmic TV.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're pretty much out of time.
Anything else going on for you this week?
Other than the interviews, I've been going live on the Eliminating Negative Entity Attachments group every Tuesday night. So I encourage anybody who has any negative entity issues to jump onto that group. Let me do that right now. So that's a Facebook group. Spirit. And we're live on that group right now, by the way. So you can jump on over there. You have to fill out a little 3-question survey to get added to the group, and then we go live and to help people. They ask questions, and and it was fun because Bernice, she is my SA, my spiritual assistant, and for all the classes. And so she and I went live on Tuesday, and it was really great to have her perspective, and we had some great questions and everything come in. So definitely check that out and join us for that if you haven't already.
Nice. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be here again next Thursday.
Yep,
at
noon Pacific, right? What time is it? Hawaii time?
It's 10 a.m. right now.
Right. Okay. Right now. So it starts at 9 a.m. Hawaii time. Okay, cool. And then what is that? That's like 3 p.m. Eastern, I think. Cool.
Something like that.
All right. Thanks, Monica. Thanks everybody for tuning in. It was a joy, and I love you unconditionally.
Aloha.